Judicial Notice JS 029587168GB. Opening Statement by Congruence. 1. In everyday language, truth and the facts are spoken interchangeably, as if they are the one and the same thing. 2. Truth, true, truth, and trust are not facts. 2.1. Truth may contain a fact, but a truth does not need to contain a fact. 2.2. The key points here to realize are: a truth is not a fact, and a truth can masquerade as being a fact. 3. A fact exists independently of our opinions and truths. 3.1. We can generate opinions on a fact. 3.2. When an opinion is generated on the back of a fact, an artistic impression is created. 3.3. An artistic impression, whether that is on canvas or is written poetry, only modifies the fact on paper in your mind, not the original fact. 3.4. No amount of opinions, truths we generate on the back of a fact can modify the fact. The fact stands alone and exists independently. 3.5. This is why the words fact and truth are two totally different words with two totally different meanings. 3.6. Example. A fact is man and woman. 3.7. If we break down the word woman, wo-man means man with a womb. 3.8. It is a fact that a man without a womb cannot create life. 3.9. It is a fact that a woman cannot naturally create life without a man. 3.10. This is why the species is collectively known as man. 3.11. Homo sapiens means one wise. Homo means one, sapiens means wise. 3.12. If you modify the species man by calling it human, you get a subspecies. 3.13. Human is the opinion which modifies the fact of the man or woman by the coloring of man. 3.14. Hue and hue are the color modifications of an artistic impression of man and woman. 3.15. Another way of saying hue is shade, i.e. black and white. 3.16. See definition of black and white in this notice, 4750. 3.17. See definition of human rights, hue in this notice, 61. 4. Truths are simply the opinions of at least 3 people. 4.1. A truth is not a belief. True means 3. Your belief has nothing to do with a truth or a fact. 4.2. Truth, trust, truce, and true are just another way of saying there are 3 things involved, or 3 people, as in 3 sides of a triangle. 5. Bi means 2, as in bicycle, bisexual, binoculars. That is to say 2 things coming together like 2 wheels on a bicycle. When they come together, it is called a bilateral agreement. 5.1. Uni means one, as in soul, neo, unicycle, universe, uniform, unisex. 5.2. When you see the word uni, it is helpful to simply substitute the uni with one, as in one verse, one form, one sex. 5.3. A unilateral agreement is an oxymoron because it masquerades as more than one thing coming together to make agreement. 6. Truth and its various derivatives are formed by a minimum of 3, whether that is by people or by other entities. 7. When you hear politicians say they made a unilateral agreement, i.e. with China, it means they made an agreement with themselves, which has nothing to do with China. 7.1. Clearly, the politician has made false and misleading sentences that work to your detriment. 8. A truth can be formulated by anybody or anything and passed off as a fact. 9. Once you have agreed upon a generated truth, it forms a binding contract, i.e., that the government, corporation, religion, or the judiciary are in possession of facts, but what they are doing is generating opinions upon opinions. 10. When the innocent believe in these truths, a contract is created or formed. For example, global warming, global cooling, and climate control. 10.1. Another example is the legislator, the judiciary, and the executive, robbing you of your ability to conduct your own affairs. 11. When the parliamentary systems, the British Museum, courts, or the various religions formulate a truth, they are simply witnessing anything, whether it is false or a fact, as a truth, trust, truce, etc. 11.1. This truth is now sold as an itemized intellectual product, as a fact. 11.2. To reiterate, all it takes to lay claim upon a fabrication or to make false claims is for three people, three entities to come together and agree that it is a truth. 12. The splitting of this sole one fact into three is how trusts are formed, like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. 12.1. This is the way that titles are split, making one equitable title and the other legal title, administered by a third party robbing you of title, equitability, and standing. 12.2. In the world of fiction, corruption is what they seek and conspire to do. 13. In the hands of honest people, a truth, trust, is formed to keep balance so the facts do not become corrupted. 14. One can corrupt, two can divide, as in corporate, but three can keep balance, courtesy of the rings of power. 15. The fiction world is made up of a collection of engineered truths fed to the people as facts. 16. We understand how words and trusts work, so let us study the word museum. 16.1. The British Museum is by royal charter. 16.2. Museum equals a place of amusement, as in amusement park. 16.3. Ideologies are formed for your amusement by the museum. 16.4. The tabloid newspapers, films, documentaries, etc. are the platforms for the promotion of the amusing theories. 16.5. Artifacts are fabricated on the back of these theories. 16.6. These fabrications of theories and artifacts are displayed in newspaper articles or in a place like a museum for your amusement. 16.7. The function of the British Museum is to do all of the above. 16.8. The ideological theories are now calibrated to produce money. In other words, determining how viable a theory is to make money from. 16.9. Another phrase for the British Museum is the Bank of England, paraphrased the British Museum doing business as the Bank of England. 16.10. First example. The theory of evolution is generated by way of Charles Robert Darwin, doing business as the legal fiction name Charles Darwin. 16.11. Artifacts such as dinosaur bones, fossils, etc. are generated to fit the theory and vice versa. 16.12. Let us pause a minute and consider. Dinosaur bones or any one of these gigantisms were never mentioned or found predating 1800s. 16.13. As if to say nobody else ever did any excavations like Romans building roads and other infrastructure, etc. 16.14. To recap, all it takes is three people to come together, which is a trust, to turn the fact of a cow bone into the truth of a dinosaur bone, and to have this truth formed through any museum, promoting it via various avenues of media. 16.5. Second example. Communism, socialism is generated by Karl Heinrich Marx, doing business as the legal fiction name Karl Marx. 16.6. His job is to convince the populace, albeit the masses, with his book Das Kapital, that capital is the enemy of the people. 16.7. Capital means one thing and one thing only, your head, as you will read further in this judicial notice. 16.18. If you believe this British Museum sponsored rhetoric, you have lost your head. 16.19. Third example. Sigismund Shlomo Freud doing business as the legal fiction name Sigmund Freud. 16.20. His job was to sell you the id, ID, persona, ego, it, idiot. 16.21. The id is a mental disorder, and if you have an ID, you are mentally incapacitated. 16.22. When Parliament, the creator of lies, asks you for your ID, it means that they are asking you for verification of your mental disorder in your passport, driver's license, student ID, etc., written in all capitals, which are all systems that put you under a license because you are mentally incapacitated. 16.23. This is how the system of licenses was birthed through the British Museum. 16.24. Fourth example. Carl Gustav Jung, doing business as the legal fiction name Carl Jung, is to sell persona, which are classified as mental disorders, i.e., alternative personality, split personality, multiple personality. 16.25. The Bank of England prints the intrinsic future money that symbolizes the perceived value that these theories and artifacts will generate. 16.26. This is actually known as fiat currency, acting currency. 16.27. Acting means pretending, performing fictional roles in films, theaters, etc. 16.28. As an adjective, it means temporarily doing business as someone else, acting superior. 16.29. First example. Superior means things that are superficial, lacking depth of character, and incapable of serious thought, i.e., Superman is a man of superficiality. 16.30. Second example. The Supreme Court is a court of superficiality, lacking depth of character, lacking fortitude, incapable of ruling, lacking thinking. 16.31. Fiat means flat, empty, inflated, etc., lacking any value. 16.32. Currency means that the current that is found flowing between the riverbanks and oceans. 16.33. Banking is the bank of a river. The currency is the flow of energy called current, and the Bank of England banks the flow of energy generated by the lies. 16.34. The theories and the artifacts are credit assessed as to how much money and for what period of time they generate commercial energy. 16.35. These theories, with their artifacts, are franchised to all other museums doing business as DBA, the Bank of England, the Bank of Switzerland, the Bank of International Settlements, the Vatican Bank, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, etc. 16.36. To maintain control over its franchisees, the British Museum steps in if the continuity of their lives is compromised or if a franchise fee is not paid to the franchisor, which is the British Museum. 16.37. In banking terms, the British Museum used their engineered truths to make claims and then, using a trust, engineer incomplete false liens from the claims if the franchise fee is not paid. 16.38. Artifacts means it is the artistry of creating an opinion from a fact, i.e., art equals opinion and fact equals fact. 16.39. The British Museum is the franchisor, albeit of the Oxford Press. 16.40. Another word for British is Boudica, Britannia, Britain, British Isles, and these are words for conducting banking and maritime. 16.41. Another word for museum is treasury. 16.42. Another word for treasury is three people's surety. 16.43. Treasury is to treasure the lies that are generated in order to seize or capture factual money and currencies like gold, silver, copper, minerals, land, etc., using empty, worthless, valueless fiat currency commonly known as shadow banking. 16.44. The museums are money laundering shadows for facts, paraphrased old lamps for new lamps, and God's money for fiction money. 16.45. When these banked lies enter the privately owned Bank of England, the money that was generated through the public bank, known as the British Museum, vanishes into the hands of the privately owned Bank of England, paraphrased public-private partnership. 16.46. To recap, when the maritime banking of the lies is done, it is put into the maritime ship's treasury. 16.47. The maritime treasury uses a conduit called public-private conversion and banks it in land jurisdiction called the Bank of England. 16.48. To make it clear in this judicial notice, what has just been said is the British Museum is the generator of lies and artifacts, and it banks those lies back into the museum, which is another word for the treasury, and through conversion, that treasury becomes the Bank of England, which steals people's lands, gold, silver, copper, minerals, water, etc. 16.49. The age of the extinction event is now upon the British Museum and all of its franchises. 16.50. Men do not have truce with liars. 16.51. Liars forfeit everything. 17. All parliamentary systems, i.e., the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive, are running their systems on 100% fraud on the words. 18. Where the spoken words are used, the parliamentary systems claim parliamentary discretion, judicial immunity, meaning they take zero liability. 19. This is frequently done by the use of past and future tenses, claiming the past is only an opinion and the future does not exist. Therefore, they have done nothing to incriminate themselves. 20. The words and the sentences are weaponized and toxified to work against the people, and we give you examples of these words. 21. It is believed by the populace that justice serves the people and they correct the wrongs. 21.1. Once the justice system, albeit called the judiciary system, gets you to contract and take ownership of these contracting words, the rape and pillage of you starts. 21.2. As soon as you contract, the words are now weaponized and toxified to work against you. 22. The toxic system has changed your name into all capitals. That is to say, to write your name differently, which resembles your own live birth born name, and you innocently agree to that all capitals name. 22.1. Through toxic due process, you now establish that you are a legal fiction person in contract, in agreement. 22.2. In banking terms, you is the debtor, whether that is a living debtor, person, or person passed away owing money. 23. Words and the various names that resemble your own name are by connotation and connotation only, which are used to harm and steal your sweat equity, i.e., by presumption and assumption, that a false name is attached to a living, breathing man or woman. 24. One of the best examples of name change is on a mortgage document, where you will come to witness what mortgage really means. 25. The real horror is that people have failed to understand how the system works against the people and their loved ones at every turn. 26. The spirited people, along with the judicial notice, have broken the legal fiction world. 26.1. This includes language fraud, slavery, barbarism, bureaucracies, and all their acts in various theaters of war, theater of commerce, medical operating theaters, etc. 27. You have heard about the toxified and weaponized words. The sexualization of words is also highly destructive, the potency of which was demonstrated when the legal fiction name calling itself Tony Blair used this method to sell the Iraq War to the people as a sexualized product. 28. The people are the creditors of the corporations, governments, judiciary, stock markets, banks, securities and exchange commission, etc. 29. All corporations, governments, judiciary, stock market, banks, securities and exchange commission, etc. are the debtors to the people. 30. The success of the fiction to convince the people to be the debtors is one example of how the state actors, through lies, turn the people into the debtors as opposed to being the creditors. 31. If this is all too overwhelming, research geoengineering and cloud seeding. 31.1. If you are new to geoengineering, then the research will help you to understand how the people are kept blind, ignorant, and divided. 31.2. For example, the global warmers staged a war over the novelty science of global coolers. 31.3. Because the two warring factions could not agree upon anything, the middleman stepped in and gave the people climate control. 32. The vastness of geoengineering is a very good demonstration of how your atmosphere is constantly engineered and re-engineered in plain sight. 33. In researching, you will come across a word called chemtrail. Do not follow this course. 33.1. Chemtrail is a conspiracy theory word generated by the geoengineers to confuse the facts of what is happening to your atmosphere. 34. Do you, the people, now comprehend how damaging these words really are to your own lives, to your own atmosphere, to your own babies, to your own health? Frequently asked questions. 35. What is a judicial notice? 35.1. Answer. A judicial notice is the way, in conventional language, to bring a fact into any court, into any country, in any jurisdiction throughout our planet, Earth, globe, etc. 35.2. If a judicial notice is the way to bring in a fact, then what are the courts running with? 35.3. What are they using? 35.4. Answer. They are using what is known as legal fiction, with legal fictional words, conventionally known as the conveyance of false and misleading statements. 35.5. Answer. Where it is a matter of showing credibility, conventional courts will introduce what is termed the facts of the crime, so the perpetrators will not try to escape jurisdiction of what is termed answering for the crime. 35.6. Answer. This is usually done with high-profile cases to keep the populace subdued. 36. What is a court of record? 36.1. Answer. A court is the four-corner rule. 36.2. Answer. Whether that court is on paper, on a football pitch, a boxing ring, or a tennis court, it is not to be associated with any buildings or paraphernalia witnessed on television, etc. 36.3. Answer. The principal key is to be cognizant that the four corners of a document, the four corners of Trafalgar Square, the four corners of a tennis court, the four corners of a boxing ring, is the court and not the stadium, not the building, not the courthouse, etc. 36.4. Answer. Just as a church is not the building, but rather the congregation. 36.5. Answer. A court of record is your own words or verbal record which communicates with all other courts, having original jurisdiction over them, whether that be the county court, European Union court, tennis court, king's court, magistrate's court, etc. 37. What is the power of a judicial notice? 37.1. Answer. Reread point 26. Refer to points 75 to 77 of this document. 37.2. Answer. At the moment, as witnessed and testified by billions of people, the people do not have access to the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive. 38. Why is that? 38.1. Answer. It is because you do not have your own court of record. 38.2. Answer. You have no way of communicating your facts into their court of record, which disables you in terms of banking, in terms of legislation, in terms of conveying your wishes for the sheriff's departments and agencies. 38.3. Answer. You are also disabled in terms of dictating your terms and conditions to a mortgaging company, credit card company, politician, etc. 39. How important is this? 39.1. Answer. Without it, you are totally and utterly disabled. 39.2. Answer. You are dead on paper. You are dead to the sheriff's department, and you are dead to all corporations and agencies. 39.3. Answer. Thousands of treaties are created on the back of this judicial notice to give it the weight, the power, and the explanatory reach to serve these facts on a global level. Summary. 40. With the verification we provide you, you have the power to arrest anyone that tries to harm you or the people. 40.1. Your own sense of responsibility and duty compels you to arrest anyone that tries to harm you or the people. 41. The judicial notice and global constitution are created to safeguard all men and women throughout our world, planet, earth, and globe. 42. By studying this document, you become the plenipotentiary judge of this document. 43. The Judicial Notice Books, Volume 1 to 4, is your court of record and your full powers of attorney in hand, allowing you to become a plenipotentiary judge of the books. 43.1. That is the power of the Judicial Notice documents and books. The following words are all contractual words, the meanings of which we have gone to great length to educate you. To clarify, 44. If you tick any box, or fill out any form using contractual words such as black man, woman, person, you are openly advertising and describing yourself as being dead in mind, body, and spirit, and therefore open to subjugation as a dead entity. 44.1. This brief description shared with you is what the county coroners throughout the world call zombified, dead on paper. 45. So toxic and weaponized are the following words, which are only a few in hundreds of thousands, that they are described as being deadly. 46. The words and their meanings are binding contracts that you choose to use or not. 46.1. The solution is know that what was done by word or on paper can be undone through this judicial notice. Your duty is to stop and correct them by all means necessary. 47. Black man equals slave or dead. 47.1. Black universally means dead. 47.2. It also means that you are dead on paper. 47.3. Unless you have perfected title, you are seen and treated as the dead. 48. Black's Law Dictionary equals law for the dead. 48.1. Black's Law Dictionary is a book of the words defined to belong to what is termed the underworld, as in undertaking, underwriters, Lloyd's of London underwriters, under investigation, under surveillance. 48.2. These words are engineered by people in the public or private that consider you or the plaintiff black dead. 49. All capital names equals dead people. 49.1. Capital means one thing, your head. 49.2. Under no circumstances does capital mean money. 49.3. The generators and engineers of the legal fiction name are trying to convince you that capital means money. 49.4. The straw man is engineered when the generators of the legal fiction name successfully convince you that capital does not mean your head. 49.5. This means you have successfully, by consent, replaced your thinking with worthless fiat money. 49.6. The anti-capitalist, anti-establishment movement is openly advertising through its controlled opposition sponsors that you are anti-thinking and non-anti-autonomous. 49.7. This means you have lost your head, your thinking, your cognizance, because it is your head that you use in your everyday life and business affairs. 49.8. The manifestation of your own intellectual property is in conducting your own business, your ability to control your own currency through your own banking skills. 49.9. When you have replaced your head, then your capital, your everyday life and business affairs will be managed by the solicitor prostitute. 49.10. This solicitor prostitute runs the county coroner's office, not to be confused with the medical examiner's office or the office of vital statistics. 49.11. Your birth-born name is written in all capitals, i.e. Mark Kishon Christopher or Jane Doe, John Doe, to signify that you have clearly lost your mind, your head, your capital, your intellectual property, and therefore are brain dead on arrival. 50. White man, woman equals European or North African. 50.1. This is where the region of the religion of Europa originated from, which spread itself to the west of the globe. 50.2. Meaning, any of these people in other parts of the world cannot claim nativity, because they are claiming to be of the religion of Europa and North African in nativity. 50.3. Example, white South Africans cannot claim nativity to their lands. 50.4. If you use the word white, tick any box or fill out any form describing yourself as white, you are openly advertising yourself as having no nativity. 50.5. Nativity is the process of being born, the place of origin. 50.6. Lacking nativity means you have no birth. You are not born and have no claim to gold, to godfathers, etc. 51. Solicitor equals prostitute. 51.1. A solicitor is a prostitute, as in soliciting, doing the dirty work. 51.2. When a prostitute is arrested, the prostitute is charged with soliciting without a license. 51.3. Therefore, a solicitor is a prostitute with a license, called a licensed solicitor. 51.4. This is called a circular argument, self-fulfilling prophecy. 51.5. These parasites are known also as ambulance chasers, anticipating to take advantage of your misfortune. 51.6. A solicitor, prostitute, can only operate in fiction for a legal fiction. 52. Lawyer equals license to lie, i.e. license to kill. 52.1. They are protected in the fiction world with a license to lie, acting as the middleman between the illiterate underworld and the fiction court. 53. License equals governmental permission to lie and commit unlawful conduct. 53.1. License and licentious come from the same word in Latin, licentia, the meanings of which range from freedom to act to unruly behavior and wantonness. 53.2. The Latin noun is itself derived from the verb licere, to be permitted. 54. Nigerian equals to be dead. 54.1. The word is universally taken from negro, which means black. 54.2. Black means dead. 54.3. So when you call yourself Nigerian, you are creating a verbal contract to say you are dead. 54.4. So your word becomes a bond, and the government calls upon your bond, your word, as a yield. 55. Naira, currency for the dead. 55.1. Naira is the underworld currency of the Nigerian persons. 55.2. The factual money, the factual currency of the people in the region, falsely stating itself as Nigeria, is gold, silver, copper, oil, and other minerals and factual substances of value. 55.3. In those pseudonym countries like Nigeria, the governments and the perpetrators of the lies wish to steal this value from the people by their own consenting pen word. 56. River Niger, floating the dead. 56.1. The word Nigeria comes from the name of the river Niger, which flows in Nigeria. This is also the case with Niagara. 56.2. Negro slaves originate from the slaves that were floated in the slave ships to the Middle Eastern countries like the pseudonym country Saudi Arabia, who were the last ones to abolish slavery by extreme global pressure in 1962. 57. Negro equals black, and black means dead. 58. Swear equals blasphemy, curse. 58.1. When you swear, you are in fact cursing by word something or someone. 58.2. To curse is the language of the dead. 58.3. This is why the fiction courts have you swear on the Bible. 59. Signature equals to do evil upon others. 59.1. It is nothing more than an illegible piece of scribble. 59.2. When penned in italics, it is written in a system called cursive writing, as in to curse someone, making you dead on paper by word and by deed. 59.3. This is part of the systems of undertakings. 59.4. A sign or facsimile of nature is not to be confused with nature itself. 60. Mortgage equals death pledge. 60.1. Mort equals dead, death. 60.2. Gage equals pledge, contract. 60.3. A mortgage is an unconscionable contract that no reasonable people would ever sign, autograph, or witness. 60.4. Unconscionable is the dishonorable pleadings by foul means of unreasonable persons, people, actors, etc., that is so unfair or unjust that it shocks the conscience. 60.5. Things that are foul, unreasonable, unconscionable are incapable of making joinder, incapable of making a contract, incapable of making an agreement. In fact, such conduct carries prison sentences and death sentences. 60.6. The originator never says it is a contract. It is a verbal pledge. 60.7. The prostitute solicitor witnesses the verbal death pledge. 60.8. The death pledge is not on you, but on the mortgage originator, broker, underwriter, to fulfill the pledge of death for your benefit. 60.9. They are the debtors and you are the creditor. 61. Human rights equals monstrous rights. 61.1. Humans come under a system that is known as coloring of the law. 61.2. Hues equals colors. 61.3. By saying that you are human, you are confessing that you are one of the many subspecies of man. 61.4. The law dictionaries make it clear. Human is a monster, and a monster cannot inherit their offspring or their blood. 61.5. Monster is defined as a human being and resembling a lower animal. 61.6. To quote George Orwell, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others, is a perfect explanation of what the coloring of the law means. 62. Parliament equals speaks lies. 62.1. Parla equals spoke from parler. 62.2. Ment equals lying from mentir. 62.3. It is part of a system engineered by the French privateers to enslave, subjugate the people and its various fictional colonies. 62.4. Parliament is openly and in plain sight advertising itself as a house of lies. 63. Government equals control lies. 63.1. Govern equals to control. 63.2. True to the French words on the United Kingdom shield, they govern the lies. 64.